What's up, guys? Doomwake here, and welcome to another video here on the channel. And I am going to be talking to you today about everybody's favorite topic around this time of the year. Yes, that's right. It is Banlist season. So for those of you who don't know, Weekly MTG is a, weekly MTG show that airs on the official Magic Twitch channel every single Tuesday, I believe. And they just had an episode drop, a live episode that they were talking about with a couple of members of R&D regarding their Banlist philosophy. And more specifically, they did go into a little bit of detail on the specific formats that they were going to be taking action on, because for those of you who don't know, the ban announcement is next Monday. And with RC Atlanta coming up in just a couple of weeks, this announcement is going to severely affect the format. So it's one that I am extremely interested in. But what I'm going to be doing today is I have a couple of clips that I want to share with you from that stream regarding specifically their takes on Pioneer and Modern, kind of what this means. They did drop a couple of hints, so maybe we can decipher those and what this means going forward, and we could talk about what's actually going to get banned. So let's start with their take on Pioneer. Alrighty, so here we have Andrew Brown on your left and Dan Musser on your right. I believe they are members of R&D that mostly handle the bulk of the Banlist discussions and talks. So let's see what they have to say about Pioneer.
Take better care of the format.
So, let's ask this directly. Will there be Pioneer changes on December 4th?
Yeah, so we've been monitoring a bunch of the new happenings with LCI, but we've been looking at it for quite some time, even before that, and listening to the community, and we want it to be fun. So, we've been watching the last few, I believe, the regional championship events over the last couple weekends since LCI has released. Lots going on, a lot has changed.
Yeah.
We were concerned the format was just like stuck a little bit. Wild Drain came out and had a sleight of hand, and we saw the Phoenix deck start coming back, rise from the ashes, as you will. So that was pretty sweet. There was some movement going on there. And then clearly with Lost Caverns, the Discover decks are all over the place. Amalia has a cool little Wild Growth Walker combo deck. So lots happening. But again, we want this to be a fun, replayable format. Losing on turn 3 all the time, when your opponent just casts one card, it's not that fun. If you can never go over the top of your opponent, or they always have the perfect sideboard card, sort of out of the mono green deck, not that fun. So yes, there's going to be changes to the format. You'll have to wait until Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, let's break that down. So at the end there, he did kind of say, yes, there will be changes to the format. You're going to have to wait till Monday. There's a lot to take in there. So obviously they started with talking about how the new sets have had a massive impact in the format. Both Wilds of Eldraine and Lost Caverns of Ixalan, ever since their release, have just been completely shaking up the format. And, that last little bit towards the end, I don't know if you guys caught that, but, dying on turn 3 when you only know one card, not fun. Well, I think there is a specific card that may or may not lead to more victories on turn 3. Any ideas? And then they also brought up the fact about Mono Green and how, Mono Green just has access to sideboard cards. Now, again, nothing is 100% confirmed, but from those hints, leads me to believe that maybe they're thinking about banning Geological Appraiser, which I think is probably a net positive, and considering banning Karn the Great Creator. Now, one unfortunate thing about this is because, as I said earlier, it's so close to the Atlanta tournament, where, they're going to make changes to the format on Monday, December 4th, and we're only going to have people who are participating in Atlanta, that is, we're only going to have a week and a half to change our decks. Now, I was planning on playing the Discover deck, the Geological Appraiser deck, which seems like, as far as what they're saying, is likely to get banned. And I'm going to have to maybe do a little bit of scrambling. But, I think overall for the health of the format, it's probably for the best. That deck is probably a little too good. But yeah, so as far as what I would like to see happen, I think Appraiser is a good ban. I'm going to be honest with you, I've been calling for a green ban for a long time, but it almost feels like at this moment in time that green is potentially maybe not that bad for the format. I know it is kind of like Karn, just in a general sense, Karn as a card is a little oppressive. It is able to access sideboard cards in game 1 situations, and maybe that's a little too good. But I don't know. As far as results are concerned, Green has not been putting up results. Now, part of that may be due to the fact that the Appraiser deck is everywhere, and Green is really bad into the Appraiser deck. So maybe they figure that if they ban the Appraiser deck, Green comes back and dominates, so they want to maybe preemptively adjust that. But I'd like to hear from you guys. So I think that Appraiser is a good ban, Karn's a good ban. Past that, I think everything else is kind of fine. But what would you like to see banned or maybe even unbanned potentially? Because they did hint a little bit towards unbans. Not sure if that's going to happen. I did a video on the Pioneer ban list a little while ago, what I think could be unbanned. You can go check that out. But I'm not sure if anything could be unbanned, but let me know in the comments. So that was the discussion on Pioneer. We'll maybe talk a little bit more about Pioneer in the wrap up, but let's see what they have to say for Modern.
Since then, we've seen not much has changed since that event.
Yeah.
So
the Pro Tour,
we gave it a little bit of time to see if Black Red Evoke deck won the Pro Tour. Can the format evolve? But really, more people just started playing Black Red Evoke deck. Cards like Fury subsidize on sort of both ends with You're Not Dead Already, I think is, and those card variants, the 1-mana black
Not
spells.
dead after all.
Not dead after all. My bad.
All the 1-mana black.
Malakir Rebirth.
It's Undying Evil.
Undying Evil.
Yeah,
There's
the
a
Magic
whole
Millennials.
gamut of them. And then on the other end, with cards like Up the Beanstalk, where no matter how you kind of cast it, you're just getting immense value. And it's keeping a lot of 1 toughness creatures at bay. That with the Bowmasters as well. So it's pretty clear something should be done. We want, again, as many decks as possible. We want as many cards to be an option for you as possible. And if we have all these cards that are saying don't play 1 toughness creatures, well, what is that keeping away?
Right.
1 toughness creatures.
Yes.
Is there
Yeah.
1 toughness creatures? Okay, great. All right. Okay.
That's pretty much it. So, they did mention a little bit in there that talking about 1 toughness creatures specifically, I would have to imagine that means Fury. And, they did overall talk about just the scam deck in a general sense, or I guess they use the word evoke, but we don't use that word on this channel. It's all scam here. So, based on what they said and the hints that they dropped, my guess for Modern bans is probably almost certainly Fury. Now they did bring up they obviously brought up the scam deck and how dominant and how overperforming or overrepresented it was. They didn't really specifically talk about grief and those kind of double grief openings. So I wonder if that means if they're considering just banning Fury and not banning grief, which to be fair, I think is a reasonable stance, because if you ban Fury, there's not really a lot of reason to play, like, the scam decks currently play 4 Not Dead After All and 2 other Undying effects. That's 6 total. You wouldn't play 6 total Undying effects if you only had grief. You'd have to retool the deck entirely. So I think maybe that's fine, but I kind of still would like to see Grief go, because Grief kind of powers up Living End, and maybe there's some other like black-white scam decks. If you go Grief plus Solitude, maybe those become a problem, because the Grief opener, for lack of a better term, is just kind of nonsensical. It's a really, it's kind of a really... It's crazy to me that it's been able to exist for this long, because whenever you get double griefed on turn 1, you usually lose those games. So my predictions for Modern, at least, will be, I kind of assume Fury and Grief. They did briefly mention Up the Beanstalk and just kind of the 4-color decks in general. The thing about Up the Beanstalk is if you ban Fury, you are kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because the Beanstalk decks do also play Fury for the most part. A part of me thinks that they're going to leave the Beans decks as is after, assuming they ban Fury, which they did specifically call out Fury. I don't know if you need to ban Beanstalk yet. Not sure if you need to ban Ring. People have been talking about banning Bowmaster. Not sure if that's something you want to do, but Fury subsidizing the 1 toughness creatures. If you ban Fury, maybe Bowmasters can be fine. But yeah, let me know, what would you guys like to see for the Modern ban list? And, we could talk about maybe the unbans as well. I think unbans are probably less likely to happen in Modern than Pioneer. The Modern ban, there's some cards that maybe could come off. Like, I've heard people talk about Umasawa's Jite. I've heard Punishing Fire. I've even heard something as crazy as Dark Depths, which I'm not advocating for a Dark Depths unban. Let's get that straight. But yeah, let me know what you guys would say. So let's just kind of wrap this up a little bit and then just kind of do like a broad picture kind of thing. All right, so what we know so far is there is a ban announcement on Monday, December 4th. It is going to 100% affect both Pioneer and Modern. And based on the hints they dropped, we can kind of safely kind of come to our own conclusions. So my predictions, kind of everything all together, is Karn the Great Creator and Geological Appraiser banned in Pioneer, and I predict that Fury and Grief are going to be banned in Modern. I think past that, everything else, for the most part, at least for now, we can kind of let it play out, see how maybe the Beans decks become a little bit too good. Maybe something in Pioneer takes over if you ban Green and the Appraiser deck. But again, speaking more a little bit on Pioneer, it's very, very tough because the metagame is at a point where everybody is being so reactive to the Geological Appraiser decks, and that's kind of why we saw Blue Eye Control did so well across the regional championships the past weekend. So it's really weird because if you ban the Geological Appraiser decks, then what happens to Blue Eye Control? What happens to the decks that beat Blue Eye Control? What happens to the decks that lose to Blue Eye Control? There's just like this very, trickling effect. And, with only a week and a half to prepare for after December 4th, it's going to be really tough to try to, process all of that. But I'm going to do my best because I am participating in the regional championships in Atlanta. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. What would you ban if you were in charge? What do you think is going to get banned? What's your wish list? What would you like to see unbanned? And yeah, thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.